Fabulous. So hello and welcome, beautiful souls, to Reparenting Your Inner Child. I hope you can all see the screen. Can you see the presentation? Yeah, brilliant. Excellent, excellent, excellent. That's the one bit that I'm done. Okay, so I just wanted to start by saying, for me, this was one of like the bigger things that on my journey, especially on my awakening journey, has played such a massive part. And I feel like it's really, really important for us to embrace our inner child and bring that child forward, because that child is always there with us. And I guess I would like to just kind of put to you that, like, when do we go between child and adult? I guess it's our human construct that tells us, right, that you're now an adult because you're 18. So somehow you've stepped into it. But I guess, where is that line really between child and adult? Because for me, we are forever that child that exists. We just change our outer form. So for me, it's really about holding that child, honoring that child, cherishing that child that we were. So I'm just putting that out there as we start. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Amy Dave, and I am a human having this glorious soul journey of mine. I'm a transformative psycho-spiritual therapist and a self-love soul journey intuitive coach and a domestic abuse specialist therapist. And you can find me on Odyssey, the platform, along with all the other magnificent facilitators that we have. But I guess more than anything, because like we have to say this, right, because this qualifies me to do what I'm doing, but more than anything, it's really my journey that brings me to this space and allows me to do what I truly love, which is to help other people on their journey, to kind of take them on their journey back home to themselves and their light. And for me, our child is the central aspect of that journey. So as we start, I just want to say, relax, be present, get into this space. This is your time. So make the most of it and allow yourself to approach this with an open heart and an open mind. I know when my child can kick off sometimes, it's kind of, I will enter a space and I'll be thinking all these thoughts and having all these feelings. And it's kind of like, leave that at the door and allow yourself to just be in this space and to not know, and to just open up to it all. So any barriers, any judgments, any opinions, it's like, allow yourself to release those, because a lot of those also come from our child's space. So bring all of you, bring your heart as we step into this wonderful journey. And I'm a lover of quotes. So as we start, I just want to say, love is what we are born with and fear is what we learn. And also, in order to heal, you have to stop pretending that it doesn't hurt. And again, as a child, we are often told to suppress things, avoid things, get on with things, just get over things. And we then suppress them for all of our lives. But the thing is, they're constantly triggered and they're constantly coming out of us in lots of different ways. So it's really about that stopping of the pretense that the things that I went through, the things I experienced, they're nothing. They're important things because they make us the people that we are in this moment. And for me, healing is really about, how are the things that I went through when I was that child, how are they showing up now? How are they impacting on my life right here, right now, in my everyday? And when we don't have the awareness of it, when we're not looking at that regularly, it's constantly triggering itself and it's just coming out as a reaction rather than us being able to manage it and respond. So why reparent your inner child? Okay. For me, as I've just said, these unhealed parts of us, these parts of us that we refuse to look at, that we're avoiding all of the time, that we're running away from, that we tell ourselves are just okay, they're the things that are constantly showing up. That's where our triggers come from. And on our soul journey, that's what the universe is constantly bringing back. They're the lessons that are coming in all of the time. So for anyone that's going through cycles, this is why we keep going through these cycles, and the same things will come up again and again and again, especially in our relationships. That is central to our relationships, because that's where we have the mirror of the other person that is constantly reflecting to us an aspect of ourselves and the unhealed part of ourselves. So to reparent our inner child, for me, is loving ourselves, because self-love for me is radical self-responsibility. It's about taking accountability for who I am choosing to be. And it's about taking accountability for the experiences that I have had and how they're showing up in my life now. Also, having worked with close to about 4,000 souls, and a lot of them children, I started my work with children in schools. I really saw firsthand how the things that they're experiencing in their childhood just become their reality. They just start to believe that this is what I am what I am going through. So to break that cycle, it's really about, how can I see myself differently? How can I reframe these stories? How can I integrate all of those things back into myself and come home to the love that I truly am? Because that is truly important, because you are the vision of love. So this is me as a child, and the child is forever within us. The child doesn't go anywhere. Okay. And I don't know for me where that line was at all. Like I said to you before, like, where is that line? When did I suddenly become an adult? When I was told that, okay, this is you being an adult, so you just have to get on with it, and now you're responsible for everything. But when I've been on my healing journeys and my awakening journeys, the biggest part of that, the root of all of that, was that child that just kept showing up, really triggered, especially in her relationships. And that's the biggest place where it's shown up for me, because I was really frightened. And that's the thing, I was living in this state of fear, which didn't allow me to move forward. I just felt stuck in this confusing, overwhelming, challenging world that felt really frightening to this little girl who just couldn't make any sense out of any of it. So this photo, one of these photos, the one where I've got the little dress on, that is the backdrop on my phone. Because for me, it's about reminding myself that I am her. She is not separate to me, and I will forever be her. So I urge you to keep a photo of your child's self with you, around you, and connect every single day, because that child is here. And often, and I know in my case, most definitely, that child was mostly sitting there like this, just waiting for the next thing that was going to come along and attack. And I spent the majority of my life in survival mode because I didn't know how to look after her. And for context, okay, these are some of the things that I've experienced on my journey from childhood. And this is what I became. I felt like I was the victim, and that's how I lived my life. So I lived as a response to my past. So I wasn't ever living in the now. I wasn't ever responding from where I was. I was living as the response to what I went through when I was a child. And it came up everywhere. It came up in everything for me, especially in my relationships. I would go in like in this attack and defense position with my armor on because I was trying to protect myself all of the time. So I never really experienced anything. I couldn't really open myself up to anything because I had to try and guess, how is this person going to hurt me? How am I going to feel embarrassed in this situation? How is this person going to try and attack me? I have to be ready. I have to be ready. So I wasn't living and I wasn't experiencing. And I find that in my work with my clients, this happens a lot, where we're just living as a response to all of these things that we have been through before. And they're coming out everywhere. And even if we tell ourselves, I'm okay, the thing is, it's like a drawer where you put in lots and lots of jumpers. Eventually, if you just keep shoving things in it, the whole thing's going to pop open. So it seeps out. It's inevitable. So for me, the biggest journey is that journey that we take in committing to ourselves in the way that we may not have been committed to when we were the child. It's about embracing yourself. It's about saying, okay, how am I relating to myself? How am I experiencing myself? How am I, because of these things that I've experienced, putting myself out into the world? Because I guarantee you will find that you're trying to hide those aspects of yourself because you're trying to hide them from yourself. You don't want anybody else to see that part of you, because what I don't want to see in me, I definitely don't want somebody else to see. And the key, the magic key, is your consciousness, your presence, your awareness. Awareness for me is everything. And across, for those of you who are in the like-minded souls group, and have done other work with any of the other practitioners, the essence, the core of everything that is done is about raising the awareness, right? It's about kind of getting you to see yourself in a different way, because we hold one perspective, we hold one story. And I am sure that all of you, whether you are here today or watching it, after the fact, know people who operate from that place of, this is just how it is. And I'm like this because, and it can't be any different because I don't want to see anything different. So for me, awareness is raised when we question. And for me, it's the simplest thing. Question everything. Why do I think this? Why am I like this? And that for me is the thread. And that's where the journaling, which we were speaking about earlier today, comes into it. Because everything is about that relationship that you have with yourself. So as you sit here, and if you're watching this after the fact, just take a moment to ask yourself, like, how aware are you of why you do the things that you do? Or why you respond or react in the ways that you do? Or do you often say to yourself, well, this is just how I am, and I can't help it? Because we aren't just like that. We are these souls that have come in for this human experience to learn all of these things so that we can expand. And it's that bringing together of those two journeys that really creates the whole picture. I know for me, a big part of my journey was missing when I didn't connect to the spiritual aspect of it. When I wasn't connected to my soul journey, life really didn't make much sense to me. It was just very painful and very confusing and very overwhelming. Okay. And in essence, how you were loved is how you end up loving yourself. And how you were treated is how you end up treating yourself. So I urge you to take some time to reflect on those things. How am I loving myself? And how does that compare to how I was loved as a child? How do I treat myself? And how does that compare to how I was treated as a child? And there's a real balance to this, because if my child is left unloved like she was, then she's just kicking off all the time. She's getting triggered and she's just running wild. But she's not being parented. She's not getting the assurance that she needs. She's not getting the security. She's not getting any of those things. So then how can I hold that child part of me in the now and set the boundaries that I need to set and have the discipline that I want to have to do all the things that I want to do, if I don't even recognize that that child is front and center in my life and is getting triggered all over the place? So when I'm telling myself, there's been many, many times in my life where I've told myself, I can't do this. I just can't do this. I really can't do this. Like this, like doing this a few years ago, honestly, this would have blown my mind. I would just be like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. Because I was the girl that sat at the back of the classroom, just with her head down. It would just be like, oh my God, please don't look at me. Please don't ask me any questions. Please don't ask me to speak in front of anybody. And that, I would have carried that on for life quite easily. But it was the child in me that needed the love to go, it's okay, you've got this, you can do this. But how do I bring that balance in of, this is the child part of me, it's not me in the now, if I have no idea what that child needs and I'm not giving it to that child? So it's our duty to meet the unmet needs of that child. So a bit of a spoiler alert, because let's get in there. You live in a story about yourself, created, enlarged through your childhood experiences, right? Our life just becomes this repeated story. And if you look back, you will see the patterns as they repeat themselves. And do you know, the beautiful thing about life is that in reverse, when we join those dots, things make a lot of sense. And we can really see the patterns. But again, you have to be present. You have to be aware. But it's backwards that the thing will make sense to you. And this story that you've created about who I am, how other people are, how the world is, it's serving a purpose to you right now. So again, I ask and urge you to sit with a journal, make some space and ask yourself, the story that I tell myself, about life, about other people, how is it serving me right now? Because it is serving you somehow. It's keeping you where you want to be. It serves a purpose. But it's not until you ask yourself, what purpose does it serve in my life, that you start to unpick, actually, this serves a purpose because it keeps me in a certain place and it keeps me a certain way. And essentially, we can either live in a state of love or a state of fear. And so to give you an example, because for me, they're the two main emotions that we live in at any given time. So spending most of my life living in fear meant that when I was feeling sad, I would approach it with fear. When I was in love, I would approach that with fear, the fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection. So in my life, my parents got divorced when I was a teenager, but there was so much abuse when I was little that any and every relationship was really about, at some point, they're going to abandon me, and at some point, they're going to reject me, and I'm going to lose them. So my story about myself and life was that nothing lasts forever. And I'm always prepared for somebody to walk away. And I'm always prepared for somebody to hurt me, because that's just how life is. So then you can imagine when you add the soul journey to that, and you realize the energy you're constantly putting out into the universe is one of, this is going to end, this is going to end, nobody loves me, this is going to end. And that story served me, right? Because I thought it kept me safe. And that's what you're trying to do for yourself. You're trying to keep yourself safe, but it's not really keeping you safe, because it's stopping you, it's minimizing you from living what you truly came here to live, which is the fullness of those experiences, of opening your heart and really living through your joy and your passion and your creativity. But living in love and living in a container of love, you can approach everything with love. Even when you're scared, it's like, okay, how can I love myself through this fear? How can I love myself through this sadness? How can I love myself through this loss? But we're not often taught that. I know that I had a very fear-based upbringing. I was made to fear God. I was made to fear my parents. I was made to fear elders. So I was always just afraid of everything. Like I was just going to get everything wrong. So again, it's a question for yourself. Am I living in this container of love? Is my foundation one of love? And am I building everything on that through love and responding to myself and life and other people through love? Or am I doing it through fear? And your thoughts and feelings are not reality. Okay, they are part of our narrative that we build up. And I'm very quickly going to demonstrate that to you. I'm just going to ask you to quickly look at this photo. What is your thought? What is the feeling that comes up for you? So if you're here, you can maybe put it into the chat. If you're doing it after the fact, maybe write it down. And if you want to, you can come back and relay it to me. But what is the thought? What is the feeling? And then what is the thought? What is the feeling for this one? Yep. Yep. Love that. So we've got stress, pain, hurt, wants to escape for the first one, and then connection, happiness. So that's how quickly your thoughts and feelings change. And no single one of us, whoever is seeing this and whenever you see it, I guarantee you, really, none of us are really going to say the same thing. And if our thoughts and feelings were truly that real, we'd all kind of be quite linear in them. But that's how quickly it shifts. Right? So it's like us believing that story in our head is doing us a massive disservice. So again, ask yourself the right questions. How do I know this is real? What I'm thinking. How do I know it's real? Also, life is inside out, not outside in. Okay, what is going on in here is truly reflected out here. So again, a reflection for you. Look at the world outside of you. Look at the people around you. Look at the experiences that you're having. And ask yourself, how is that a reflection of what's going on in here? And how I'm seeing the world. Like in my situation, over the last 3 years, my life has completely changed. And when I look at the people around me now, at every angle, the people that have ended up closest to me in my life, they're all very, very loving people. And my experience is very, very loving. But if I go back 3, 4, 5 years, most of the people around me were toxic. And it was a toxic situation that I was in. So I would really urge you to have that reflection, really ask yourself, sit with it. What can I see outside? What are my circumstances outside of me? And take it within. And ask yourself, how is that a reflection of what's going on in me? Because when there's chaos out there, there's chaos in here. When there's fear out there, there's fear in here. When there's stress out there, there's stress in here. And as this changes, and there is no other way about it. Like for me, it's like that's the one way it works. It's like what is here is going to show up out here. And if we can embody that and understand that each one of us is bringing that energy in, that's what we're then reflecting back into the world. That chaos that's in here, it gets reflected out here. And that's the world that we create. And like one of my examples for me is being part of the like-minded souls group and other groups like that. Because I truly believe when we're in those situations, we very much get to see the reflection of what we're being through those spaces. I'm just reading the chat, so give me a moment. I love that. Thank goodness she can scream to get help or to stunt her aggressor with a scream. I love that. Creative. I love it. But you see, even that, it's like how different our minds are, how different our thoughts are. So then how can those things just be pure reality? They're not. And the last one here is that our beliefs create the reality which reinforces the belief, because we live in this self-fulfilling prophecy of ours, right? This story that this is how it is. And if this is how it is, and these are my beliefs, I'm constantly proving that to myself. And I'd love for you to experiment. For me, life is about experimenting, right? Change only happens when we experiment. So go and experiment. Play with it. Bring that child, the curiosity, the wonder, like what's going on here? Let me be curious without judgment. Do not judge yourself. This is not a case of I'm going to look at the child in me and I'm going to judge myself. No. This is about, I wonder why I think like that. I wonder why I see that. It's really interesting, right? Because where did their beliefs come from? And this, for me, encapsulates a lot of people's beliefs, okay? I'm not loved. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. I'm not enough or good enough. I don't belong. I must control myself. I can't trust myself or the people or the world. I don't matter. I'm not capable. I'm powerless. There is a right way to do everything, and I need to be perfect. And I know that I have been through all of these at some stage, and I've held them as my foundational beliefs. So then if I'm holding them as my beliefs, I'm trying to prove that this is true all of the time. All of the time. So again, what are the beliefs that you hold to be true? Because they're not truths, they're beliefs. And beliefs are changeable, but they're only changeable when we realize that, hold on a minute, why do I believe that this is the truth? Why am I believing that? Where is that coming from? Oh, I don't know what I'm doing now. Messing around with this. Okay, 1 second. Oh dear. Hold on, give me a second, lovelies. There we go. Okay. Okay. What does a child need? Because in reparenting our inner child, in bringing that child forward, what was it that you didn't get as that child? What was it that you need? What is it that you need now? What does that child in you need now for that child to feel safe? For that child to be able to show up in the fullest expression of what you are? To be unapologetically you, what do you need? And what are you not giving yourself? For me, one of the biggest things was safety. I always thought that safety, security, and stability were things I had to get from somewhere else. Like a house would give me stability. Being in a relationship would make me feel safe. But it was only when I found that safety and that stability and that security in me that I started to experience it outside of me. Because until then, I never felt safe, ever. And I never felt secure. And I didn't feel stable. But it was because I consistently just kept searching for these things outside of me all of the time. So from this list, ask yourself, like, do you give yourself the love, the trust? Do you trust yourself? Do you trust yourself to hold yourself in difficult situations? If you had to do a trust fall and you were holding yourself, would you? Do you find security and safety and stability within you? Do you validate yourself? Do you honor yourself? Are you nurturing yourself? Do you listen to yourself? And do you hear yourself? Do you give yourself that reassurance when things aren't going well for you or you're struggling? Or do you tell yourself off? And I know a lot of people tell themselves off. I know that a lot of people that will watch this have that voice. I had that voice. I'd be like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? Just get on with it. Why are you so weak? One of my biggest messages from my mom has always been, but you have to be strong. But you have to be strong. When my life has fallen apart, she's just like, but you're strong. But the underlying context of that for me is, it's not okay for me to show any weakness or be weak. That means I can't tell people that I'm struggling and I have to cope with everything by myself. Because otherwise it'll be weak, and I can't be weak because I'm strong. So what does that child need? Because now it's your turn to parent that child. Truly. So I put to you, so if you want to, you can take a photo of this screen, or, you know, you can come back to it after. And for the people watching it after, like, make a note of this, take a photo of it, whatever you need to do, so you can ask yourself the questions. Thank you very much, beautiful soul. Yeah, what if you are enough? Do you ever ask yourself that? What if you are lovable? What if you are not too much? What if you're not shy? What if you are worthy? What if really you're not afraid? What if you are actually capable? What if you are actually powerful? Then what happens? Then it challenges your narrative about yourself. And you spent so long trying to prove your narrative about yourself that then you're going to go, no, I'm not any of those things. Because then your narrative, your story about yourself and life and other people needs to shift. So then what? So I'm asking you to take maybe one of these things and really work on it. Really work on it. So whether it's, what if I am worthy? Take that and ask yourself that every single day. What if I am worthy? Then what changes? What's different? How would my experience of myself and life change if I am worthy? How would I show up if I am worthy? What changes for me if I am worthy? Oh, okay. Where are we at in terms of time? Okay. So I wanted to take you on a little journey. And I'm going to do that now. Oh, I've lost you all. Oh, I'm going to have to stop share for a moment. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to start the share again in a moment. So I'm going to take you on a little journey. So I would love for you, wherever you are, just to kind of get comfortable. And I invite you to close your eyes. I just invite you to relax and just get present. And just feel into the space that you're in. Feel your body wherever it is right now. And just start to connect to your breath. You don't have to change it or anything like that, but just feel the flow of the beautiful breath in and out of your body. And just bring your focus to your heart space and find your heartbeat. Now I'd like you to imagine that you're going on a walk. And you're on a long path. And as you walk down this path, you notice that you're entering some woods on a beautiful day, and the sun is streaming through the trees, and there's beautiful light streaming through those trees. And as you walk down this pathway, you go deeper into these woods. You can see these flowers, these trees, the light dancing on the leaves and the trees, creating glorious shadows. And as you walk deeper and deeper, you feel held by the trees around you and Mother Earth. Up ahead of you, you notice that there's a clearing. You're intrigued. So you start to make your way towards this clearing. Notice what's around you. Notice the smells, the sounds. You can hear the birds singing, smell of the flowers and the trees. And as you come closer to this clearing, you can hear water. As you step into this clearing, you can see that there's a stream. You can hear the babbling of the water as it flows. And as you walk into the clearing, you notice that it's like a meadow. There's grass and flowers. And in the distance, you notice a log, a tree trunk. On that log, you notice there's a child sitting with their legs in the water. And you're curious. So you start to walk towards this child and where they're sitting. And as you approach, this small child turns and looks up at you. You realize that it's your child self. So you sit with them on the log. They look up at you and they smile. Take a moment to notice how you feel. That little child looks you in the eyes. And puts their little hand on your heart. And tells you that they have a message for you. Allow yourself to hear that message now. What is your child self wanting you to hear? What does he or she want to say to you? After they give you your message, you embrace. And as you embrace, your child self merges with you. You feel their heart beat with yours. You sit there and you allow yourself to reconnect to your breathing and your breath. And you feel the flow of the two as one. You bring your focus back to your body, to the space that you are in. When you are ready, you can open your eyes. I am going to give, well, actually, I am going to stop there. Yeah. So I'm going to stop the recording at that point. I just want to say thank you to everybody that is here and everybody that may see it after the fact. And I just want to say that if there are any questions, actually it's naughty of me to stop at that point. There's another slide I have to show, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to show that slide. So firstly, what was your message? And I just want to reiterate here that your journal is your best friend. Beautiful souls, your journal is your best friend. Treat create a journal space that is a communication between you and your inner child, so that you can share those messages and your child is enabled to share with you what they need on a daily basis. So I have some other slides here, which I'm not going to get a lot of time to go through now. For those of you who are on the call and after the fact, you can, well, I'll probably be able to get them put up maybe on the platform, or you can contact me and I can give you the reflections and the journaling, because there's a lot of questions to really ask yourself. And I guess one of the questions that I'd like to give you now, in fact, because I'm going to leave this screen up, is that reflection around how you were actually parented, without that blame and shame and guilt and judgment. This is not a narrative around these are all the ways that were hurt. This is really quite an objective look at, how was I parented? What did I learn about myself through my parents? What did I want and need as a child? And what do I want and need now? Another suggestion, and this works really, really well when I'm working with my clients, is to write a letter to your parents, okay? And it's not to send or anything like that, but it's for you to have those moments where you can go, these are all the things that I want to say. And then you can do, like when I've done this activity with people, like you can rip it up, you can keep it, you can share it with somebody you love and trust. But it's just about getting it out of here and over here, and for you to look at it and read it and see what's actually come out. Allow your child to write that letter. What would that child say? And another thing is, what part of you is actually showing up in your relationship with your parents? Because for a lot of people, what actually happens is when you step back into that relationship, and I know it happened for me, is that you become the child again. And then you wonder why you keep living the same pattern again and again and again. It's like, why is it always the same? Why does this relationship not change? But it's because every time you're stepping into that situation, you're stepping back into that child. So what would be different for you if you were able to show up as the person that you are now, not the child? And really observe yourself. Do I show up when I go into this relationship with certain people? Does my child step forward and get triggered? And do I bring that child part of myself? Because it's when you decide that you're going to respond differently and bring your adult, because you can tell your child, you're safe, I've got your back. You're going to be okay in this situation. They can't hurt you. That's when those relationships suddenly start to look different. And you have the power to do that. You get to create the difference. So ask yourself, how can I show up differently? Because I know that when I've looked at that, I can sometimes show up with the tantrum. I'll start having the tantrum in my own way, because that's what I'm used to. Or I'll start the kickback, or I'll be defensive, or I'll go back into my shell and be that child and respond and react from that place of the child that I was. But I'm not that child. I've got that child. That child is safe. You've got that child is safe. So then what would be different in those relationships? So try those things, and please come and feed back to me, because I love the feedback. I love to see how these things are actually working for you in action, because for me, it's all about action. It's all about trying things that allow you to see that you are not the story that you have created about yourself. So yes, thank you for being present. thank you for being here with me on this journey. Thank you for watching it after the fact, if that's when you're watching it. And like I said, I am on the platform, one of quite a few practitioners and growing number of practitioners. And yeah, this is the kind of journeys that I take clients on. So if you want to know more, you can contact me. And I am going to stop the share and stop the recording there. Okay, stop the share and stop the recording.